I blossom, I bloom when I see people of color in these roles that we have been denied for so long, you know? It just, like, I'm not going to cry, but I want to cry. I love that when we get to be the geniuses, when we get to be the brainiacs, the heroes.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Star Trek Discovery Recap Freakcast. I'm your captain. Can I be the captain if my husband's the captain? Are we co-captains?
No. So he can't be the captain. I'd much rather have you be the captain, and that tells you a lot. If I'd rather you be the captain than Pike.
I don't think it tells me a lot. I think I'm a very adequate human being that can run a starship.
You're full of adequativity.
Wow. Anyways, I'm Miss Anita Sarkeesian, Pike, Christopher, and joining me is
Are you high?
No, I have cramps, and I just woke up. I'm really tired. It's fine. This is gonna be great.
People don't need to know this. Start again.
Really?
No.
Okay. I was like, no, you like this off the barrels nonsense. All right. So I am your host, as always, and I'm ready for this delightful adventure into this episode of Star Trek Discovery. You know who else is ready for a delightful adventure into this episode of Star Trek Discovery?
Who?
You.
Yes.
Ebony Adams, a.k.a. Baby Burnham.
Yeah.
I read that and I was like, Let's see here. Is your hair 4C?
4B, 4C.
Is her hair 4B, 4C?
It's 4B, 4C, but like many people, I have a wealth of textures going on there. But it's really more about just how sweet and cute Baby Burnham is, just like me. Moving on before you can disagree.
Yeah, good. Good save. Good save. All right, y'all. You know the drill. We need your help and your money.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly your money, which helps us. It's weird how those two things go hand in hand, isn't it, Ebony?
Mm-hmm.
Please back our Patreon. Support us over there. It's patreon.com/femfreak. You help us bring Feminist Frequency Radio to life. You help us bring this to life. You help us bring whatever weird concoctions we come up with next. And we appreciate you for it. And by our appreciation, we give you things like early access and bonus content. I just said content very sincerely. Makes me want to puke a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we chat with you and we get your feedback. And, you know, it's a really good time over there.
Yeah.
And with Patreon now, you have your very own RSS feed where all of our audio files are uploaded directly into your magical device, as opposed to that other place that we were that did not do that thing that made everything more difficult. So how is that for a very sincere pitch? Patreon.com/femfreak. All right, this week we are talking about Perpetual Infinity. That is episode 11 of season 2. And to get into it, I'm going to ask little baby Burnham to give us a brief summary.
Captain's log.
You got to do it in a baby voice.
That's asking the audience for too much.
That is too much. I don't think I could handle that either.
Yeah. Captain's log. Burnham receives the reunion she's been longing for, but it doesn't go quite as she imagined. Georgiou and Tyler sense a disturbing change in Leland.
Ooh.
Let's get into it.
Wait, not Burnham and Tyler, Georgiou and Tyler.
That's what I said, Georgiou and Tyler.
Did you? Wow, man, this is going to be a long episode.
Play back the tape.
Whatever.
We don't have time for that mess. I did not take tons of notes on this episode, and
this
I'm trying to decide
note taking. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to decide if it's because, and I watched it twice actually, because I'm trying to be a better critic, you know. So I'm like, I know there's stuff that I miss on a first viewing. I know there's stuff that I have questions on. Rather than just shoot from the hip, why don't I actually do the work? And
what are you trying to say about me?
You get what I'm saying. No, but since we took the opportunity to record a little bit later than we normally do, I was like, you know what? I have the time to watch this twice. I'm going to watch it twice. And yet I still didn't add much to my notes. And I wonder if it's because, like, I was so invested in trying to figure out what the fuck was going on that I, couldn't look down at my notebook to scribble shorthand, or if it's because the episode kind of left me cold. I think it's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B.
Interesting. I feel like I didn't take a lot of notes because it wasn't a hearty episode, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it, if that makes sense. Like, I think that this is an episode... I liked it. I think that it's one of those episodes where it's a lot of timey-wimey, fucking sciencey-wincy bullshit that you're like, what? But also, there was a lot of emotional heart in it, and I got sucked into that. And I like those episodes. I can deal with it being a little loopy in terms of the science.
Yeah. I mean, let's just start with Commander Burnham. Sonequa Martin Green has gotten the opportunity to deliver some A+ acting in the last couple of episodes. She's not always given a lot to work with. A lot of times I feel as if the kind of emotional work that she's had to do has been a little bit forced, and I don't think it's necessarily her fault. I think it's often, the writing, the story arcs have been responsible, but she's really just been delivering such authentic emotion in the last couple of episodes. In this one especially, the move from realizing that her mother, who she's been grieving for the past 20 years, is alive, and there, and yet not there. It's like...
Yeah, the scene where she finds out and her stuttering, she died. Like, over and over again, I thought she delivered that so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then at the end, the realization that I have to let her go, that this is larger than just me and my grief, and it's larger than just, my mother and her desire to have me back in her life. Like, there are larger issues at play there. Being able to let her go. Like, I was just, applauding from my couch. And I have to say, so often when women, particularly women of a certain age, get to do anything meaty in fiction, it's often because of their kind of place on the maternal spectrum, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's often about like a lost child or a child who's been traumatized or brutalized or whatever. And so any kind of agency the mother has or that woman has is via the vehicle of being a mother. And, yes, that's absolutely happening here. But the fact that we get that Dr. Gabrielle Burnham, Michael's mother, gets to be kind of this universe-straddling hero in a way that is normally reserved for men, I really loved, that her story and her kind of power resided in realizing that this is not just something small, that there are larger implications here, beyond the mother-child bond. And that's something that, is normally reserved for men. So I really dug it. I have to say, as someone who lost my mother, I would not have been able to make the choice that Burnham does. My mom died 10 years ago. If I had the choice between having my mother back for even 1 second and letting the universe burn down, I would take having my mom. The rest of y'all can go jump. I don't give a shit. I literally would not be able to make that choice. So,
and that's part of the tension in Gabrielle that I liked that they played with, where she hardened over 20 years of trying to save the universe. And she got to spend time with everybody. Right? She got to see Burnham grow up. She got to see all these people, and she got to see her daughter die again and again and again. Right?
Yeah.
And watching her, literally, that scene where Burnham is like, "What is wrong with you? I'm right here," and she's like, no. Like, you know, in her brain, you could see her face be like, don't do it. Don't let them suck you in. They are not your friends. You know, like in that way. And watching that like tear down throughout the episode, as much as there was space to do that, right? I thought was really powerful.
Yeah.
And the tension between like the trolley problem, right? Like that's what this is. Yeah, I liked that. I thought there was something really that kind of tension and that kind of. Here's a question for you.
I guarantee you, I don't have an answer.
Oh, you probably do.
That should be the name of this podcast. I guarantee I don't have an answer.
Do you care that much about humanity? Like legitimately, if you not, this is not an issue of like saving your mother. This is an issue of you are a woman, a human that realizes that all of humanity is going to be destroyed by an AI in like a bajillion years. Do you actually care?
Oh, listen, me, Ebony, speaking to you from the year of our Borg, 2019. Humanity is garbage. Let's go, like, throw them into the Gamma Quadrant, shoot them into a sun. I don't think we're worth saving.
It's a lot of effort.
If I were in the 23rd century, you know, some shit had been ironed out, had been fixed socially, maybe I would care more. But I think no matter when you are, where you are, yeah, humanity or whatever species in the aggregate, it is very difficult to care about the mass of humanity compared with the tangible realness of the person you love who's right in front of you. That's what I'm saying. Like, I could not have made the decision that Burnham made. I would have had to, if this needed to be done, I could have recognized that, but I would have had to absent myself from the situation. I could not be responsible for sending my mother away again. But anyways, let's talk about what we learn in this. So,
well, yeah, okay, but hold on. Sorry, can we talk about that? Sorry.
No,
I think
let's
that this
go
is
for
a really interesting philosophical point, and this is what I like about Star Trek, right? Like, and whenever we have these episodes, I'm like, oh, right, I like this show. That, you know, yeah, this is not news to our listeners. I won't harp on this.
Wobbly? No, it's not at all.
I won't harp on this too long, but you're absolutely right. Is that as humans, we are generally wired to build interpersonal connections and relationships, like as survival, right? As community, and we have to learn to value this society. I think. I don't know if that's true. But.
Yeah, and others who are not in our in-group, like our in-moiety, right? You know, and that's something that you don't learn just once. Like, you have to constantly work at that. And also recognizing, like, who do I consider to be in my in-group? Who do I consider to be in that out-group? And how do I constantly expand, you know, those boundaries such that I can extend my compassion and care for those people who I don't see every day?
Here's my question then is, like... Is there... I really legitimately am wondering what the feeling of being responsible for the entire human race is. That, like, a massive genocide will occur if I don't do something. Do I care? Like, do I only care because I'm extrapolating that I want a good world for my daughter? Right? Like, even though I've already watched her die a million times and she's probably going to die before this genocide occurs... This like massive wipeout. Like, there's just so much psychological stuff here that I like find really meaty and kind of want to dig into. And the show's not necessarily asking any of these questions, but I am, because I'm like, what is the psychology of this woman and what does it mean? And like, how is she not cracked?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the way that she has maintained some semblance of sanity, and yeah, we absolutely should unpack what that means, is by emotionally divorcing herself. She has, over the past 20 years, watched her daughter, but not just her daughter, but everyone die over and over and over again. And when she talks to Pike and says, "You're a ghost to me. You're just a corpse among trillions in the graveyard of the future that I've lived through." And
what? Yeah, you know? And like her interacting with people, she's like, "You're dead." What, sorry, God, you just said that. But like, what does it feel like to see someone and be like, "I've seen you die, and I'm gonna see you die again"? It's just, it's like, I want, Is there a short about her? Because I want more. I want to know more about this.
I absolutely do too. I also have a question, and one of the reasons why I watched the episode twice is because I was like, did I miss this? I wasn't certain. How long does she get to spend in any past moment before she gets yanked back to the future? Because clearly she's able to, like, you know, eat, get some great hair products, you know, like she hasn't been living 950 years in the future without some, you know, shea butter and deep conditioning cream.
I think
like,
you're asking too specific of a question, Evan.
I know, and I'm not saying these are plot holes. I'm just saying I would like to know, does she prepare like a shopping list and she's like, I'm going to do a quick run back to 2115. I'm going to hit up a Walgreens. I'm going to grab as much as I can before I get yanked back. I bet that's what's happening.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yes.
Oh, also, I think it's worth noting here that, like, the only person she can Spock to. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. The only person she can talk to in the whole of the universe is Spock. Like, and she only did that, like, the 1 or 2 times. So she's only spoken to a human in 20 years. Or human, Jesus. Another sentient being twice or 3 times in the whole of 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's fucking Spock, man. That would be real unsatisfying.
Yes,
Sorry.
but we definitely also, I love how I keep saying we should talk about this and then I move on. But the fact that she is able to communicate with Spock, you know, for, you know, however you want to understand communicate, because it's not as if Spock is able to talk back to her, but because he is half Vulcan and half human, like the particular, you know, brain makeup that gives him, but also specifically because he has latocteri / dyslexia. Right?
Yeah.
You know? So this is a trope that, you know, our past guest, Sarah Goldie, brought up, which was the way that Star Trek posits disability as superpower.
Yep. That's what I was saying too.
And I've read a couple of things online since viewing the episode last night where people, you know, really come down in 2 camps about how they see this playing out in this particular instance. You know, whether they appreciate the way that Spock's learning disability has been woven into what we understand about his character versus people who are like, no, you know, you haven't spent enough time really unpacking what this might mean to just sort of throw it in there as kind of a throwaway. But I have to say, for my part, and as someone who does not have dyslexia, so from the outside, I appreciated it. I liked it, you know, but I might feel differently if I, in fact, had dyslexia. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and also not your space to make the call in terms of whether it's oppressive or not. Right.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, people who have dyslexia, like I said, there are 2 different camps, at least, you know. I don't know that there's sort of, you know, one right answer, one response. Your response is the authentic response.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely like, you know, the way that this show is using disability, we all want them to do more and also do it right. And I think that there is space for that. But this kind of thing is really skirting the edges or is firmly in the camp of like your disability makes you magical. And unfortunately, too often in media, it either makes you magical or it gives you something you have to overcome.
Right. And also, like, we will talk about it narratively only when it suits our purposes. Yeah. But we won't explore that, you know, and what that might mean for your day-to-day life, you know, at any other time. And also, like, you know, we've talked about how great and exciting it is that that this iteration of Star Trek has explored like depression and anxiety. And, you know, we've had a crew member in a wheelchair. Yes, you know, in as much as you can offer points for that kind of stuff, that's great. But we saw that crew member in a wheelchair once. Why are we never seeing him again? You know, like you don't get to just throw these darts at the dartboard and then never come back to them. That's tokenistic and it's patronizing.
Yeah, totally.
You can do better. You can do better. Bring that crew member back. Give him a line. Make him, I don't know, an important member of the crew.
He could have taken over for Arium.
Apparently, the crew member who took over for Arium, like that actor, is the person who actually played Arium in season 1. I think I read that.
Oh,
it's very interesting. Anyway,
okay, Leland. Let's talk about Leland. Okay, no, hold on. I got some timey-wimey. Well, how did he get tied up? How did an AI tie him up?
That's your question?
Yes.
Like the AI can do all of these things, and you're wondering how the AI managed to, like, shift his body into,
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe the AI, like, I don't know, Anita. I don't know. Maybe the AI influenced, like after he was taken down, members of Section 31 put him in like their version of sick bay or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. What I want to know is this the beginning of the Borg? Like, is this the version of the Borg? Because he gets injected with those nanite/nanoprobes, So is this, does Control, recognize it? Like, it only gets 54% or whatever of the sphere's data. So rather than evolving to a point where then all sapient life is destroyed in the universe, are they only able to go sort of so far?
Okay, hold on.
And they become the
I have
Borg
even more questions.
Good. This whole thing, we need many questions.
With what you're positing right now, like, the Control can only develop enough to destroy all of humanity if they get all of the data, not half of the data. Like, what
we don't know. We don't know.
Right. And then also, like, the Borg thing would be really interesting. Although I don't suspect that's where this is going. Like, I bet you the end of the season is going to be pretty tidy, and they're going to get Control under control. Insert laugh track.
You know what? Stop recording and go think about what you've just done.
I know. I'm so sorry. Yeah, and like, so I think that there's. I think it's gonna get wrapped up. Like, that's my prediction here, because I don't think the show likes to keep loose ends like that floating around.
Are you kidding? This whole show is a loose end. The spore drive, Spock's foster sister that we've never heard of before. The Section 31.
Fine.
I really do think this is going to be like a sort of parallel evolution of the Borg. Again, who knows what version of the universe or time stream we're in, but this is where I'm at right now.
So you think that the Borg? So you think that Control is going to also, does Control destroy humanity on purpose?
I think
does it know that that's what it wants to do?
I think so, because it's, when it talks to Leland at the beginning of the episode, it's like, you are attempting to craft a universe in which, everyone is on their knees and order is paramount. That's what we want. So, we want order. And unfortunately, organic life is by its very nature disorderly. So I think it sees, the cessation of organic, like the elimination of organic life as a higher good.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm excited to see. I do think that it's going to wind up, being the Borg or something like it. But then there's still the question of who's sending the signals.
Who is sending the signals?
It's not Control, and it wasn't Gabrielle Burnham. So who is sending the signals? And also, how does this tie in to Calypso, the short trek that if you have not seen it yet, you need to watch it so we can talk about it.
Look, I want the TV to tell me what I need.
The TV is trying to offer you more. It's like 10 minutes, Anita.
Oh, boy. Who has 10 minutes?
You do. And I'll tell you, like when you're waiting in line at the bank. I mean, who does that anymore? I don't know.
Actually, that's so funny that you say that, because I was about to say, who the fuck watches videos waiting in line at the bank? I was literally waiting in the line at the bank watching a dude watch a video on his phone.
Mm-hmm. So, boom. Okay.
I don't want to be that guy. So I was just instructed. Anyways, all right. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. I really liked the problem solving in this episode, the attempt at problem solving. So that whole large exposition brainstorming session, I fucking love that shit. Mm-hmm. Where they're like, we need to think about the problem differently. Love that. Not to get too personal. A therapist years ago, I was like dealing with some anxiety stuff, and they're like, think about it differently, approach things differently. And so ever since then, when I have a thing that like keeps crashing in my brain, or like a thing with a person, and then I try to do it differently, it usually helps.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so here's my my pop psychology advice to you all, is that if you have a problem, just try approaching it differently and see what happens. I like that in this, and I liked that exchange that happened in that room. And like, there, as the big highly illogical of this episode is the whole fucking episode.
Yeah.
But I like that they were like, we're thinking about the sphere, let's think about time. And that kind of broke my brain a little bit because I was like, wait, what does that even mean? How do you, and like that solution that they came up with was really interesting, right? And like, and that also keeps it open for, as Starfleet, we have developed a technology to move into the future and to time travel, right? We developed it once. We have no idea if we can develop it again. But like that sitting out there in the far, far future in like desolate Earth in the 900 years later or whatever, we could eventually find that again. Right. Like, and then this whole thing could start again in some ways. Or like there's a lot of interesting stuff that could play with that. But just the way that they were thinking about it, I was into.
I was, again, I'm so confused, and it may be because I'm just not watching closely enough, but the sphere and the Red Angel suit, I'm still so confused about the capabilities and limitations of both, such that this sphere data, like the crew of the Discovery was able to send it, and yet they couldn't destroy it. You know, I'm like, where is it located?
Oh, it's all stupidly convenient for, like, moving the story ahead, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, this is dumb.
And then, like, the suit. So they're going to upload it to the suit and send the suit into the future. But the suit doesn't just go between, like, one point, you know, like, one spatial coordinate to that same spatial coordinate in the future, right? Like, the suit is able to travel, you know, geographically, I guess I would term it, right? So couldn't you upload the sphere data to the suit and then just like send the suit into the heart of a sun or something and destroy it that way?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they are thinking about it like you can't control the suit, which is what Gabrielle is doing. But so when that dome gets released, the energy dome that's locking them in place, the suit and Gabrielle, they're going to go flying back to blah, 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 900 years in the future or whatever.
Right.
Did she get locked? Like, did she lock herself to that time? Or did she get locked to that time? Because she made it sound like it both sounded to me like she didn't want to be there and also she wanted to be there.
I think she was locked there. Like once she went there, whatever went wrong with her initial jump, because she was trying to go just like an hour back in the past and wound up shooting 950
But
years
why would
into
her
the future.
body get stuck there and not just the suit?
Well, because she said something about like the suit was DNA locked to her, so she was the only person who could use it.
Sure.
So I don't know.
But how does time know her DNA?
Anita, I don't know the answer to these questions.
So dumb.
You know, and I was also asking, like, once the containment field is eliminated and the suit goes flying up through, you know, that gaping space maw, and she shoots up after it, I'm like, where is she going? Like, does it take her through space? How does she survive if she's outside of the suit? Does she just get like warped back inside of the suit at some point?
Yeah, and like, what is it that's pulling her? Like
time,
but like
time has gravity.
None of this
and
makes
shape.
sense. This whole episode is fucking does not make sense.
Oh no, it's highly illogical,
it.
And yet I still enjoyed it.
I super enjoyed it. But here's why we enjoyed it: is because it has a lot of emotional heart, right? You see Michael, who, again, as you said when we first started this, like Sonequa Martin Green fucking killed it in this episode. The tension of her relationship with her mother being like, I don't want to have feelings for you. I'm doing all of this for you. Her and Spock, man. I really like Spock in this. Like, that guy, whatever his fucking name is, plays Spock so well for me partly because I have no attachment to the original Spock, but also like I buy this character so wholeheartedly. And like, when he walks into Burnham's room when she's watching those videos, which fuck yeah, I would watch those videos 500 fucking times over and over again. He just like talks to her and validates her feelings and then like says, let's play a game. And he doesn't even say it, right? He just sets it up and is like, it's your board. And like, and that's so much care and compassion, right? And I hope they keep Spock on the show in season 3. I don't know how or why they would do that, but like I really want to see their relationship grow a little bit more. And like even if he makes guest appearances of like a sort of like real siblingness to this, and like Spock understanding that some of his humanity is really valuable.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah, no, I'm loving each scene with them too. I especially love the way that they, just kind of niggle at each other, in the way that siblings do. And I do think Ethan Peck, the actor playing Spock, like definitely has tonally got, I like this version of a slightly younger Spock. I can see this Spock growing into the Spock that then I know and love from later iterations of Star Trek.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, speaking of family, I also really loved like the mother battle in this episode between Georgiou and Burnham.
Oh my
Gabrielle.
God, Georgiou was so good.
So good, right? Like
that.
She
when
is
she was
such
like, "You
a
love my
valuable
daughter,"
character.
I was like, "Yeah, you do."
Yeah.
Even though, again, I still hold true to last week. Like they did not do the due diligence to set this up, but they're justifying it by having this exposition. And I'm okay with it. I just would like to point out their failure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this podcast is all about. But yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, when Burnham wakes up and Philippa tells her, your mother is alive, you can see, even though it's very tightly controlled, the interplay of emotions on her face, because she knows what this will mean to Burnham. And there is a part of her, despite being Terran, despite avowing that, she's not ruled by emotion or, positive feeling for others, there is a part of her that knows that she will be displaced by the return of, Burnham's biological mother, that even though the Burnham that she has this new relationship with is not the Terran version from her own universe. Nevertheless, she has feelings for Burnham and, a love for her that she does not acknowledge because it signifies weakness, right? And then, we see that play out in that conversation between her and Gabrielle Burnham, her insistence that no, like self-sacrifice is not something that Terrans do. I always look out for number one. We know that's false. Like Michelle Yeoh plays that so well because we know that ultimately she is not able to be quite as heartless, perhaps, as she would like to be. That, whatever weakness she feels that love represents, she has it for Burnham, Yeah. She won't deny it. And she will not, like the easiest thing for her to do, the most selfish thing for her to do would be to allow to sort of go with the power player in that moment, who clearly is control, in the body of Leland. But she doesn't do that. She takes the, more humane response and throws a monkey into the wrench. And then has a boss ass fight scene. Dude, I want one of those in every episode.
I love when I like watching her fight is such a delight.
Yes.
And I like we talked about like sexualized or feminized fighting styles, and I love that they don't do that to her.
Yeah.
Or she let's be real, Michelle Yeoh is probably like, nope, I got this, thanks.
Yeah.
But like I did not really like I didn't really like the way that scene was directed and the interplay between them fighting and trying to, what were they? I can't even remember now what the other thing was. Mm-hmm. It was like shooting, like trying to save her mom or whatever. Like it was just this rapid scene. The fighting stuff, like I thought that it was really smart in how they did it in terms of showing how Control learns, right? And how Control like is like, oh, this is how you fight. I now know how you fight. Right. And like Georgiou can't switch her brain that quickly to fight in a different style because it's all muscle memoried, right?
Right.
I really liked that. So I think this is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to bring up a Voyager reference. Please bear with me.
No.
One of the things that in Voyager is how, like, a few seasons in, one of the characters, like one of the actors wants to leave the show, and she's replaced with Jerry Ryan playing Seven of Nine, which was totally a shout out to like getting young boys on the getting boys and men interested in the show, because Jerry Ryan is very stereotypically beautiful and she wears a fucking onesie the whole time and like all this shit, right? But I really like the character of Seven of Nine outside of the sort of sexualized purposes of it. Because Seven of Nine is Borg, a human that turned into Borg, and she is learning how to be human through her relationship with Janeway. And I love that relationship and I love that development and what's happening there. And I feel like in some ways, Georgiou and Michael are doing a similar thing, where, she's learning how to be human, Georgiou's learning how to be human, not Terran, because of her relationship with this other woman. And so there is I don't know, for lack of a better word here, but like female bonding happening, right? And growth and compassion for each other in these spaces. And so that's just a bit of a Star Trek echo that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I, speaking of Star Trek echoes, from the very beginning of this episode where we see Gabrielle Burnham, recording some information about the time crystal and supernovas and whatever. Okay, it's sciencey bullshit. Nevertheless, to have a black woman delivering that sciencey bullshit will never fail to thrill me. So you have Burnham and her parents, her mother, her dad, who's a xenoarchaeologist, Burnham herself when she grows older. I go back to being that 8-year-old kid who is just, I blossom, I bloom when I see people of color in these roles that we have been denied for so long. It just I'm not going to cry, but I want to cry. I love that when we get to be the geniuses, when we get to be the brainiacs, the heroes. And I think there's a very interesting parallel between this episode and the relationship, the mother-child relationship between Burnham and her mother. And then, do you remember from Star Trek: The Next Generation, the episode where, Geordi attempts to connect with his mother, who is lost?
I have to remove all Geordi episodes from my brain because they're fucking creepy.
A lot of them were. His relationship to, what was her name?
All women is horrifying.
Okay, so his romantic relationships, yes, those were fucked up. But this was a very interesting one. And just, I appreciate and love when Black characters get to have these larger, emotionally weighted backstories,
Yeah, for sure.
But the loss that is represented by the loss of this Black genius woman is a tragedy for me personally, but also for the wider world of science or Starfleet or whatever. I love that Star Trek does this. I don't know that people who aren't Black, who aren't people of color, recognize how amazing it is to see us like this on screen. I am so, used to seeing Black people as, the comic relief, as, the muscle, as the thug, as, as the poor, traumatized inner city kid, whatever, the person in need of, a white savior. It is so rare that we get to be these kind of shining exemplars,
Yeah.
I'm in love with it. I'm in love with it. This is one of the reasons why Star Trek Discovery, any given scene, there are a bunch of women in that scene, and they will be important to that scene. But also, in the background, there are lots of women. There are lots of people of color.
It means so much.
It means so much, and it's nothing is made of it, and it's not a big deal. We don't have any labored dialogue about oh, there's a lot of chicks on this ship, or this was an experiment and seeing whether women could run a ship. It's just accepted.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, another echo. Sorry, this is a non sequitur completely from your very important point. The hands touching through glass, man. I know that. I mean, I don't know Toss well, but I know that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little callback moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying, I know
Spock
a thing.
and Kirk, listen, there are people here. I think we're seeing more and better Star Trek allusions, like callbacks in this season. Or I don't know, maybe they're just more satisfying for me.
Yeah,
but I really do feel like Discovery has gotten its feet. And there will always be, moments where it stumbles, episodes where you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? But I really do feel like the show is growing into itself, and I'm so excited. And I really hope that Burnham's hair catches up.
I am conflicted about my man in this episode. He did not give in to Michael's demands, but also, fuck you.
Yeah.
I was like, you gotta let her see her mom, man. What's wrong with you?
He is decisive precisely when I don't want him to be decisive.
Yeah.
Like, be swayed other moments. Whatever. That's your man. Do it. Talk to him tonight.
We got to have a little talk before bed tonight.
Take him out for a meal and say, we gotta hash this out.
Okay, I have 3 highly illogicals.
Okay.
And they're not all like, they're not actually highly illogical. They're just the moment where we're like, well, that's the thing that happened. First of all, the scene where... Well, actually, the first highly illogical is coming off of what I just said. One, I thought it was really funny that they called it a tug of war with the universe. I found that writing amusing. Yeah. So Gabrielle only wants to see the captain, and Michael's like, oh, the fuck? And then they go and have a goddamn little talk it out session for a while about how to handle the situation when they literally just said, you have maybe an hour before she's going to disappear forever. I'm sitting there going, just go fucking talk to her, man. Yeah. Just go talk to her. So that drove me bonkers batshit. Okay. The other thing I thought was so awkwardly funny, because there's no way to deliver this better than they did, but it was just real cheesy. When Michael and Spock, they're walking to the transporters, and Spock quotes Hamlet, and she goes, Hamlet, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. I wrote that down to him. It was just like,
that was
guys,
so
we gotta stop.
Bad.
We gotta stop.
I mean, I loved it and hated it. It was just so stupid. And then the other thing is, how do you like the fact that Michael is named after her father?
Love it. I don't know.
I don't either. I was like, oh, Mike and Michael, blah, blah, blah.
No, I'm into it,
Well, because it justifies, they made a justification for her name in the second season. Like, they just did it in this episode. I don't know if that was, if they developed this whole backstory with their names or not. But, yeah, there's something there. But, also there's a bit of me that's like, why don't you name her after her mom? Because her mom's pretty fucking cool. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing to sit on.
In my mind, if Burnham had siblings, they would have all been named Michael. It would have been like a George Foreman situation. So I'm into it.
But here's the thing too, is that literally the very first episode of this podcast, we talked about how having a woman named a very traditional male name that is not in our current society used as interchangeable based on the gender binary is a little bit of trying to be cool chick.
Yeah.
But the problem is if we just released gender, we released attachments of names to gender, then they would do that more in the show.
Right.
And so Gabrielle is a female coded name. Mike and Michael are male coded names. Christopher is a male coded name, which it comes from a legacy. But you know what I mean? Tilly, all of these names are still very gendered. Michael's the only one. And so it still bothers me. I feel like they could have been better about it, but also I also feel like they didn't want to push it too hard.
It's the way in which socially tomboys are much more accepted than femme little boys. Right? So, it's not radical. You may think it's cool that Michael is named after her father and that she isn't given a feminized version of his masculine coded name. But it's not radical because we're okay with that. The more that a woman tends into socially accepted forms of masculine behavior or cultural markers, the more we prize her.
Yeah. And
it would be much more radical.
The reverse isn't is
Yeah,
not
exactly.
on
So
Earth.
like if Pike was named Christina, you know,
Yeah.
and he was named after his mother, that would have been radical.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any highly illogicals before the hair report?
Yeah, I do. And it's a meta highly illogical, and it's really just more of an infuriating note. I don't know if anyone else is having this problem with the CBS All Access app, but if it's just me, I'll get it sorted. But I suspect it's not, because it's been happening every week. They need to fucking sort out the captions. This is a real problem. The timing is completely fucking screwed up. If you're going to do captions, then you need to be diligent about the way that they're presented. It matters if things are spelled correctly. It matters if things are synced and timed correctly. Like the entire first time I watched the show, I had to force myself, as difficult as it was, because as much as I need captions, I had to force myself not to really pay attention to the captions because they were coming early. And so it was entirely fucking with, you know, my understanding of what was happening on the screen. This is unconscionable, you know?
Yeah,
Sort it out, CBS
totally.
All Access.
I know that a lot of our listeners, all three of them, watch it on Netflix, because outside of the US, Netflix is where this is housed. Because capitalism is fucking stupid. So I don't know if it's if it's the same captioning service. I think it's a different captioning service. So I'm wondering if the Netflix ones are better. Not that you have access to that, so.
I don't, but you do, and you'll be traveling to Europe, so you can let me know.
I will, because I also watch everything with captions. All right, Benny. Sorry, I know you hate it when I call you that.
Yep.
I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, quick note for anyone. Like, if you ever see me out at a convention, or, I don't know, you're paying my bail or whatever, do not call me Eb. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah, sorry. I know better than that. Don't call anyone by a name that is not the name they introduce you as.
Thank you.
Like, you know,
do not give somebody a nickname.
Especially if you don't have a relationship with them.
Thank you. And also be real careful. If you're white and the person you're giving a nickname to is a person of color, be real careful that they're
also,
okay with
if somebody's name is like Jonathan or Michael or David and they introduce themselves as that, don't fucking shorten their name.
Yeah. Don't be an asshole. That's our advice for you this week.
Yeah, be better about names, man. Okay, how's the hair on this episode?
Whatever. You know, I've lost my will to live. Because it's like they're trying so hard in the front, and then they just let the back of that wig do whatever it wants to do.
It's so bad.
It's just not the way that I don't want to say it's not the way that, you know, highly textured hair lays, because someone will pop up and be like, my hair does that, but it's just off-putting to me because it doesn't seem to sit right on her head. And her hair looked so good in season 1, so I'm not happy with it. I mean, at least they haven't gone with straightening her hair. I'm glad they're still committed to that natural life, but that's really all I can say.
All right.
Yeah.
What else do we do? Oh, respective ratings.
Yeah. God, this is a hard one.
I'm gonna go from the heart here, and just like I enjoyed watching the episode.
Yeah.
Even with all of the things, so I'm gonna give it 7.5 to 8, 7.75 out of 10. Button pushes of the bridge buttons.
I'm with you. I am fundamentally, constitutionally unable not to love anything having to do with mothers. So I'm giving it 8 Deanna Troi chocolate parfaits and 10 forward out of 10.
Perfect. All right, Benny. Theme song.
Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children... Oh, shit. You know what? I start doing these covers, and I forget I don't know the words. Anyway, go to YouTube and watch the video for Mother by Danzig, a song that will never fail to make me crack up.
I was like, is that what you're trying to do? Because, wow.
That's what I was trying to do.
Wow. That is a very good song, though.
By the way, Shout out to the people, it might have just been one of you, it might have just been Nolani, who recognized the brilliance of my Music Man parody from last week's theme song. The rest of y'all can go jump.
I don't think I noticed. I will also link in the show notes. Somebody, sorry that I don't have this prepped. Somebody sent me a side-by-side set of images of Commander Pike, Captain Pike, and Pikachu. And they are the same person. You are correct. So thank you for sharing that joy with me. I will link it in the show notes for everyone to look at. All right, y'all, that is our show. Hopefully next week I won't be as coughing and sniffling and gross, but you might not even notice if Taylor cuts all that shit out, but probably not. So whatever. Let's see how next week fares, because, the show is a roller coaster ride of my heart.
Oh, God. You are a poet who doesn't get your just desserts, really.
If you like our show, you might like our main show, Feminist Frequency Radio. You can go listen to that. If you want to help us keep making them, go to patreon.com/femfreak, where we post things. Like last week, we posted a photo of our other producer's dog, who's very cute, and you might want to see that.
Yeah.
So you can give us money to see a picture of a cute dog.
It's a scam.
You can also rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast, and it helps other folks find us. I think the first season there was one review of someone who's like, you don't even like the show. Why would you have a podcast about it?
They're not wrong, but we've since come around.
We have come around. Thanks to Taylor Simmons, our wonderful producer, for putting up with all of our bullshit, Sarah Norales for technical support, and Ray Abelard for designs. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.